my daughter came home in high school, she'd gotten in trouble at the office because she punched a boy. And so when she came home, I said, what the heck happened? Why did you do this? What's going on? And she would not tell me. She just would not tell me. And I finally said, did he say something about how fat I am? And she just started to sob. And that just broke my heart because, because it's like, my God, I'm putting my kids in this social situation where they have to defend my honor.
Hi, it's Paul from Hench Herbivore. Today I interview amazing Canadian couple Dan and Sheanne Muscaluk. They've got two of the most fantastic health recovery stories. Check it out. Guys, I'm really excited to share your amazing stories with my audience. But first of all, I've got to say, you both look amazing, a real testament to the diet. So well done, you. Sheanne, I understand that you went vegan after a chance conversation in a store. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Actually, our son had joined a gym. He was in grade 10, so about 15. And they had told him at the gym that he would need to have those protein powders if he was ever hoping to put on muscle. So I went to our local health food store and I was looking at those giant jugs of whey powder. And the sales clerk comes over to me and she kind of says, well, who are you buying this for? And I said, oh, my son. How old? 15. She leans in and quietly says, you need to do some research on this before you give it to your children, which just totally astounded me, because how often are you in a store and they deter you from buying a product?
It's like they don't want your money. That's unheard of.
Exactly. So it was kind of, it was stunning enough to think, oh, okay. So I went home and that was the start of it. It was the start of it because I Googled whey protein powder, and by some luck, I came across the YouTube video by John McDougall, The Perils of Dairy. Mm-hmm. And it just talked about all the detrimental effects to human health by consuming dairy products. And it was so opposite of everything I'd ever been taught my entire life. I mean, we hear, you need it for strong teeth and bones, and milk does a body good, and all of those kind of things. And so it was that initial spark that lit the fire that led me down the rabbit hole of researching.
Wow, that's amazing. So like me, you went vegan in the hopes of not contracting the usual diseases of affluence that most people will suffer and die from in their life. But I understand you had a rather wonderful side effect as well.
Yeah, you're right. I really did it for health. And then the first, I kind of leaned into it in 2010, and then I read T. Colin Campbell's The China Study in the early spring of 2011. And it was the quintessential moment where I decided I could no longer feed myself or my family in that manner. And so it was April 1st, April Fool's Day. I cleaned everything out.
That's great.
Food away. Yeah, wow. Gave food away to my neighbors. I put meat out of the freezer into the forest for the coyotes, you name it. Just got rid of all of it. And so that first month, I lost 15 pounds without even trying, without even, expecting to. And it was so easy, so amazing. And I was eating mountains of food. When we call ourselves high volume eaters. Mm-hmm. And so I just was so astounded. And I thought, because I was at that time, I was 293 pounds, almost 300 pounds. And I had tried every possible diet throughout my life, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, all of the ones. And you'd lose weight while you were on them, but then you'd gain it back as soon as you went back to the standard diet of eating, animal products and processed food. And so, and I think, my story is so common. First pregnancy, gained a lot of weight. Second pregnancy, gained a lot of weight, just kept going. So I never really had a set goal of I want to lose X number of pounds, but it just kept going. And it was like, oh, well, maybe I can lose 30 pounds. Maybe I can lose 50, 70, 90. And it ended up to be about 133. And
in 2 years.
In 2 years.
And so seriously.
2 years. And so it was a lovely side effect.
Yes.
Were you exercising heavily at the time?
No, for the first, I'd say 6 or 7 months, I didn't do anything. I mean, at 300 pounds, I was obese, and I hadn't done anything since probably my early 20s. So I was so out of shape. I was so overweight that exercise was just not even something that I would even consider.
Sure.
You know, my knees hurt all the time. Just mowing the lawn was a huge effort for me. You know, I often say that I was a spectator in my family's life because when the kids were little, Dan did all of the fun things. He took them camping. He took them skiing. He did everything because I just simply couldn't.
I don't think of those sorts of things. So how did that make you feel at the time?
Oh, it was really, really sad. And I would know, I think one of the things that bothered me the most was that I knew that my children were, you know, they loved me, but they were somewhat embarrassed because their friends would say things about me and my size and all of those kind of things. And it was really hurtful. I mean, I remember one story. My daughter came home in high school. She'd gotten in trouble at the office because she punched a boy. And so when she came home, I said, what the heck happened? Why did you do this? What's going on? And she would not tell me. She just would not tell me. And I finally said, did he say something about how fat I am? And she just started to sob. And that just broke my heart because, because it's like, my God, I'm putting my kids in this social situation where they have to defend my honor. And, you know, what is going on? And so that was a really hard situation. It's hard to, I know what people struggle to go through being obese. You know, you're looked at differently, you're self-conscious, you don't feel that you can be your true self, that your personality can shine through because you feel you have to be nice and jolly in hopes that people will like you. And I have to say also that I don't feel I'm as nice a person as I used to be because I've got, that's
well,
not horrible too.
You're not nasty, but you're well.
I'm more confident and I speak my mind, and I'm not so concerned about being liked per se. I hope I still am, but you know what I mean. So after I'd probably lost about 50 or 60 pounds, I started adding in just walking. Yes. We live in a very hilly area. So just getting out of my driveway and up about, I don't know.
A good 3/4 of a kilometer is all uphill.
Up, and so even like that first 100 meters would be just hell for me. And by the time I got to the top of the hill, my chest would be hurting. I would be breathing so heavily that if I bumped into a neighbor, I couldn't actually communicate with him. I couldn't even speak. But I kept doing it, and I'd just add, maybe 20 or 30 feet. And now, and it just got easier and better. And now I do our
daily walk.
Our daily walk is about 5 kilometers, and it's
2.5 uphill
and 2.5 down. And so, that's something that I do mindlessly. It takes about an hour, and that's all I'm really willing to commit. So.
And then it was interesting too, last year, we had one of our local gym companies, Orange Fitness, asked us if we would be brand ambassadors for them. And we said, well, we really haven't been in a gym for quite a long time. And they're a fitness studio with the variety of disciplines. But we thought, what a great thing to be doing. So we got into that, and that as well has been the fabulous experience.
Unfortunately, COVID kind of shut that down for a while, and we're hoping to get back at it. So
it sounds like you really reclaimed your life back and got your zest for life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I erased all of those things, and I set myself on a course for the rest of my life, knock on wood, that I will not have to worry about heart disease and diabetes and all of the things that just seem to be standardly accepted in our society as
like obesity is so growing, isn't it? It's even children now, and the world is just set up for us to fail unless you find, I feel like whole foods, plant-based eating, I feel like it's a cheat code to fat loss, because as you say, you lost weight without even trying. Right. How many people eat that way? Like, we eat oils, we eat sugar, we eat animals, and we're just set up to fail, aren't we?
We really, really are. And, I think, and it's only happened in this last century, really, as we've industrialized our food, and we, have these hyper dopamine cascade causing foods that, you know, we're created, we were evolved to seek out sugar, oil, and salt, but in a whole food plant-based things, you know, nuts and seeds and avocados and that kind of thing. And so then suddenly you have something like potato chips and your brain's going, wow, this is fantastic, right? Eat more. We need those calories to, you know, get through the next famine. But the next famine, for us, at least in North America, doesn't come. So it's a trap. It really is a trap.
Yeah. It's interesting to note too that in the 2 years that Sean had dragged us initially onto this journey of eating this way in the house, outside the home, of course, and myself being a police officer and shift worker, I was still scarfing crap down and fast food and things and animal products, but essentially, you know, eating whole food plant-based 95% of the time. In those 2 years, I had 35-pound or so weight loss, metabolic syndrome disappeared, pre-diabetes disappeared, high blood pressure and high cholesterol all leveled off, even at 95%. So yeah, it even eating it to that degree showed, you know, unbelievable results for myself. Yeah. So we were, and then again, when you start hitting your mid 40s, late 40s, and entering into, you know, your senior years, to do it in such a manner that felt so easy, and then to get the results that you got, and, you know, sleep patterns improve, allergies pretty much disappear, you know, sinus issues, all these side effects, you tick off all these boxes because, as we know, it's all one system. You don't just fix one thing, it fixes many. So it was an incredible start.
Nice. So, Sean, you went vegan in 2010?
Yeah, I leaned in 2010, made the full commitment, like I said, April 1st, 2011. Yeah. And I have to say that we were, you know, because I was trying to pull along 2 teenagers and a husband who were not keen, we were more vegan than whole food plant-based.
Yeah, so some sort of mock meats and that kind of thing as well.
Right, those transitional foods.
Sure. And now in 2013, Dan, you received some terrible news. Do you mind to talk about that?
Yes. And again, you know, there we were approaching retirement, soon to be empty nesters. And the beginning of November, that whole week, the first week in November, I was going through this bout of really extreme abdominal pain, and still going to work, but thinking something's going on. And it was quite concerning because people were noting that I was pale and flush and sweaty, and, you know, you look like you're a little sick this week. Yeah, I'm not feeling that great. Something's happening. And my first reaction was, well, maybe I'm suffering from what, you know, in my family, runs in the family, is gastrointestinal and kidney stones and so on, and gallstones. And so I thought something must be happening. So by the Saturday, I couldn't put it off any longer. I was out cutting firewood, and I came back into the house at the end of the day, buckled in pain. I said, no, we've got to go to the hospital. So we went to the emergency ward. That was a Saturday, November 9th, 2013. And at the emergency ward, they drew blood. They did a bunch of scans. We sat there, as you normally do, waiting in the ER. And the physician came back, ushered us quietly into one of the examination rooms. And within taking 2 steps into the room, with us still all standing around, and within 2 sentences, he said, Dan, it's not kidney stones, it's cancer. Wow. And he said, your right kidney is one massive tumor, and it's metastasized. It's spread out of the kidney into the vena cava, which is the truncal vein where all your major organs are attached, and it's spread to your lymph nodes. It was a really eerie feeling, and it was like watching one of those movies where you see somebody get that news. Yeah, and time slowed.
It was surreal.
It was surreal. As Sean said, the oddest thing. She said, "Oh gosh, Dan, that's not what you were hoping to hear."
You don't even know what to say, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, you know, the next step is advising workmates that I'm fortunate as a federal employee with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, our federal police force, that we have unbelievable benefits. So I announced to my coworkers that I was going to be taking a leave of absence because I was terminally ill with cancer. And with the, that week came specialist appointments. And it was explained to us that the prognosis was months to 2 years would be what was expected I would survive, that we would be naive to think that it wouldn't spread and grow, and that I would get really sick and it would be a miserable 2 years. But I can tell you that when I heard that news in the emergency ward, and Sean had always been, sharing some of the information and some of the reading. I wasn't up on the reading as much as she would by any means. And that night in the emergency ward was when I made that decision that I was going to go whole food, plant-based 100%. Nice. Because I wanted to tip the scales in my favor, and I didn't want to die. And I was going to do anything and everything that I could to live. And, and then, so with that,
what does your nutrition look like? What else?
Right.
Well,
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. At that point, there was about 2 weeks where we were just stunned and shocked, and we didn't do anything except stare out the window
and cry.
And then I kind of started thinking that, I'd been reading about everything, about the effects of plants on all diseases. So I really focused in on looking at nutrition and cancer. Mm-hmm. And what I found that there was 100 years of data showing that animal products promote cancer cell growth. And I remember feeling so angry that nobody's ever telling you this. And then I also thought, well, okay, I've been reading this, let's put it to the test. And so I really transitioned our diet away from being vegan to really whole food plant-based. And we took that deep dive. It was tons of greens, no sugar, no oil at all, no processed foods, not even unbroken grains, like no flour products even.
Okay, so intact grains, nice.
Yeah, intact grains. And so it was what, I call it our program of nutritional excellence. And it was like Dan wasn't allowed to leave the table until he'd finished
of greens,
heaping green of spinach and kale. It was like, I was like treating him like a child. You're not allowed to leave the table. And it was also because this huge surgery was coming up, and we wanted to get him as healthy as possible just for the surgery, which was major. So, so that's kind of how we ate for
even prepping up for surgery. And it was interesting to note that the physicians, they explained to me that it's a serious surgery, or they're going to open me up, my abdomen from side to side, pull all the organs aside, and then have a really close look around at what was going on, and then an extreme nephrectomy, the removal of the kidney. But they said, it's a risky surgery. You might not survive it, so you have to realize that. But because you're such an excellent candidate for a person of your age, because the health you're in. So aside from the cancer, I was extremely healthy, and that's a possibility. You can be diagnosed with cancer, but be extremely healthy. And if you are diagnosed with cancer, it's far better to be healthy in that situation. Yeah. So going into the surgery, they were very confident that because I was so healthy, I was an excellent candidate for the surgery itself.
Nice.
And that's such an important point, is that, it's not a silver bullet. You don't know what's going to happen, but be in the best health that you possibly can for come what may. Yeah. And I feel that we were so fortunate that I did have this in place, and I had done the research when this cancer diagnosis hit us, because I know how fragile you are at that time. Yeah. And then to also have to clean out your kitchen and change the way you eat and shop and all that kind of stuff, that's hard. Well worth doing, but very hard. So do it now.
Yeah, do it prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had the surgery to remove the kidney and the surrounding lymph nodes, and then but you were eating the healthy diet, but it spread, had it? Is that right?
Well, there was no spread in growth. What had happened was during the surgery, they removed the kidney, pulled the tumor out of the vena cava, and removed some of the area lymph nodes. But they, you have lymph nodes throughout your whole body, so they couldn't go around picking lymph nodes here and there. So I had 3 remaining, one by my mid-spine, upper neck, and one in my chest. So they were aware of these remaining lymph nodes that were affected, that were abnormal and enlarged with cancer. And they said, but because there's no effective treatment for stage 4 renal cell carcinoma, it's terminal. They said, but we feel that your only chance for medical treatment would be getting onto a trial study drug, or phase 1 trial study, that there were several that were ongoing at the time. And they said, well, because you're so healthy, we can wait and watch. We can wait and watch the cancer. And that's sometimes a term that cancer diagnoses will hear. Some people don't have the opportunity or the luxury of waiting and watching. But because, again, I was so healthy, we were able to do that. So by fast forward to now March, they got me into a trial, phase 1 trial study with using immunotherapy drugs. And the regime was going to be, first of all, us driving to the study cancer clinic in Vancouver, which was a 5-hour drive. Prior to that as well, there was tests going on all the time and scans, and you kind of abdicate a little bit of your time in your life to, the medical treatment and your medical team. But again, we've always been advocates for ourselves and, always ask the questions, always look into things, and go into it as familiar and aware as you can. So they were successful. I was, again, because I was such an excellent candidate, they said, you've been accepted for one of these trial studies. So you get this large package of paper and you read through it, and it goes the reams of side effects. And the one sentence that stood out for me as well was that, it stated that as a phase 1 trial study subject, there's no expectation for this drug to have personal benefit or improvement to your situation or health. So there's no expectation that this is going to help you. So essentially, you're a guinea pig. The treatment was going to be 4 treatments of the combination of 2 drugs for 3 weeks, and then followed. Every 3 weeks for 4 treatments. And then to be followed by a maintenance treatment every 2 weeks for the rest of my life. And as the physician and the oncologist stated, or forever how long my body could endure it. Wow. So, these drugs take their toll on it and on your body. And so we were going in on Wednesdays to the cancer trial study clinic in Vancouver. I was the only man on the floor, the chemo ward that day. Even though it's not chemo, they still administer the treatment in the same ward. I was the only man there. It was breast cancer day while I was there. And the condition of the women, and what we looked like compared to everybody else was like night and day. And, we would walk in there essentially looking like we do today. Even a couple of pounds lighter, actually, and thanks COVID. But people would look at us and wonder, who between these 2 individuals, why are they there? And so we made it. And one of the major side effects that they said to watch out for was that the drug essentially bumps up your immune system to get past the blocks and walls that the cancer puts up. But it's like opening the tiger's cage and not knowing what that tiger is going to do. And I made it to the 3rd treatment of that first session. And I had one of the major side effects where the drugs attacked my liver. And it happened overnight, one night, where I saw a bit of a fever, which is, again, a very big red flag for cancer diagnoses. Off to the hospital we went. They drew blood. They made the determination overnight as to that my liver was in being attacked by the drugs, and it was producing 25 times the normal enzymes that it does to try and protect itself. They dismissed people at 5 times the normal level. Wow. So obviously I was dismissed from the trial study at that near fatal side effect attack on my liver caused by the drugs. Interestingly enough as well, as we went through those months, there was no spread and there was no growth of the remaining lymph nodes or in other organs or my blood or bones.
Which they had warned us would happen.
Yeah.
They told us this will happen.
And, we kept going into appointment after appointment. And they were always kind of like surprised and shocked. And well, keep doing what you're doing.
But, you know, I have to say, too, that because it was a phase 1 trial study, which is basically an experiment, I was adamant that if this is truly an experiment, you need to know all of the elements. And
Yes.
I was constantly saying, I want it noted that we're whole food, plant-based.
Yeah.
Roll their eyes. It doesn't matter. Food doesn't have an effect. You know, all of these excuses.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, whatever. You know, they didn't want to hear it. And, you know, we've since had access to our file, and there is not one mention of our dietary choices.
Yeah.
And I think
It seems to be an important factor.
I think, which is obviously
it's a
very
confounding
important.
variable, isn't it? And like you say, they should control for that sort of thing. I had the same thing. I had a biceps detachment. My own fault. It was boxing, and it'll punch someone in the big toe. It was an instant karma. But yeah, it healed in about half the time that it usually takes. And I said, and the surgeon wanted to take a photo and talk about it. And I said, oh, you might note that I'm whole foods vegan. Oh, food's got nothing to do with it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
You know, I heard a good quote the other day is that a doctor who doesn't know about nutrition is like a fireman who doesn't know about water.
Yeah, spot on. I love that.
Right?
I'm going to nick that.
It's the foundation of everything. Every cell is grown on by what you eat.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So you kept up your program of nutritional excellence, as you say. I believe you then had some very good news.
Yes, well then, because so to look at it at that point, the timeline, May 2014 was the last time I had any medical intervention or treatments, and as we progressed into the fall, they kept up with the scans. I was getting CT scans almost every 6 weeks, and again, that in itself is very, very hard emotionally. But you know, every time we got the scan results back, by that September, they said, you know, we can really look at and state that your cancer is in remission. And they were, again, shrugging their shoulders and would send us off. So every time we'd go to see one of our oncologists or medical team, you'd walk out of there just feeling like you've won the lottery, the biggest lottery in life, life itself and health. And not just surviving at that time, but thriving after hearing that you're going to get sick and you're going to die. And I wasn't. I was getting healthier, and that coincided as well. The next CT scan that we had was around December, and so by January, February, that was our next meeting. We went in to see the oncologist. They opened the file. They said, Dan, your cancer is radiologically undetectable. Essentially, you're cancer-free. And they said, we're closing your file here. There's no other service that we can offer you or support you with. If you were to walk through the doors today, we would turn you around because you have no business being here. So it was, so again, we walked out of there going, okay.
Wow. And then, you know, another point is, and, you know, it's like, so if they really wanted to cure cancer, how come there's not a team at our house looking at what we eat and how we sleep and, you know, what kind of toilet paper you use, everything, right?
Yeah,
no,
because the survival rate for that particular cancer is really small, isn't it?
Yes, it's 5% to the 5-year mark. So there's a 95% chance of you dying of stage 4 renal cell carcinoma. And there I was, cancer-free within about 15 months when they said my life expectancy was going to be 2 years and that I was going to get really, really sick. I didn't get sick. I got healthier. So it was quite incredible. Go ahead.
So they'd finished all treatments on you. So can you only put this solely down to nutrition then?
Well, I think it has a big part to do with it. We do know, and it's been stated, that those that have the severe side effects from the treatment are those that seem to have, results and from the treatment. And so we can attribute, to some degree, possibly the treatment itself, but without a doubt that, had I been continuing to eat cancer, eat cancer-causing foods.
Yeah. And, you know, I think what's interesting now is that they are starting to do fecal transplants for immune therapy as well, because they find that it has a better effect if you have a diverse gut biome. Mm-hmm. And of course, we know, where are they getting those fecal transplants from? from gold standard plant eaters.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, so, you know, so did Dan have a better reaction because he had this amazing gut biome and he was a plant eater, and so therefore the effectiveness was higher? We'll never know unless we cloned him.
And they do know, though, that you get better results and less side effects from, you know, chemo and radiation as well when you eat a whole food plant-based diet.
Yeah, for any
type of cancer treatment.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, with the one doubling test that they had done.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it's really interesting. Back at about 3 weeks after surgery, Dan was still upstairs recovering and he was bedridden. And I took a phone call from the oncology department saying that, you know, after surgery, they always take samples and they grow them in the Petri dish to figure out the doubling time and to know what they're really dealing with. And so they had called and they had said, we're really sorry to tell you, but this is an extremely aggressive form of cancer. And I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, that's it, we're done. And what we realize now is that maybe that Petri dish was a very hospitable environment for the cancer to grow, but we had made Dan's body a very inhospitable environment.
So we attribute, you know, all that to say is that we definitely attribute my recovery, you know, to a large degree to our nutrition and the diet that we adopted and the lifestyle that we adopted. I think as well, too, is that you have the emotional and wellness and mental attitude as well, that we cried a lot, but we laughed a lot. I was never angry about being, you know, in that predicament. We live in a beautiful part of the planet, a beautiful part of the country here in British Columbia. And I've always been very mindful and aware of what nature can do for us, for our wellness. Again, as a police officer, you know, the 12-hour shifts, night and day, I've been fortunate to see, you know, the 24-hour rotation and see night and day and spring and falls and all the seasons changes. Yeah. That spring, when I was recovering from cancer, I couldn't sleep for several weeks. And then even in the recovery, I was, awake quite early and watching spring come alive. And it's a very special time for me. So I think the mental attitude is a big thing as well.
Huge.
And social support. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to health, isn't there? I understand that the greens and blues and the fractal patterns of nature, like lower our cortisol, so we've got less stress and, you know, the straight lines in the grey of urban life, you know, raises cortisol and yeah, like you say, like connection, like community, like it's all important, isn't it? We need to address all of these things.
It really is.
I think that's what, again, too, like this community, the vegan community and the whole food plant-based community, I think that's where one of the strengths and benefits of it comes as well, for the greater good, and to feel part of that effort to the greater good, I think is one of the biggest things and best things you can do for your wellness, you know, to align your actions with your beliefs, with your values.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel exactly the same way. I feel that people, the vast majority of people, just have no clue how powerful, you know, this way of eating is. What would you say to people that don't believe it's worth giving up their favorite animal products and processed junk foods, you know, to eat this way?
Well, I guess our advice is like, try it for 30 days. Really really commit for 30 days and see how you feel. And you're going to feel better. You're going to lose, 15 pounds that first month I did. And you're going to just feel, you're going to sleep better. You're going to feel more vital. Your skin starts to glow. People start looking at you like,
there's something going on
What's
here.
going on? And so, I think, you can't dismiss it until you try it yourself. And I think when you really do the education as well, I mean, it's the trifecta, right? It's like, I think all of us are animal lovers and we all love our pets. But when you look beyond that circle and you see what the harms are, what we're inflicting on really lovely sentient beings, that becomes a real huge issue. I mean, we went into it for health and animal ethics soon followed. And then when you realize what we're doing to our environment, our planet, it becomes it becomes a no-brainer once you know the facts, and it's a win-win-win. Right?
Yeah. And that being said, too, I think a piece of advice, too, is those individuals that already have, manifestation of chronic illnesses, either diabetes or heart disease, you look at this, inform yourself as to what this possibly can do for your health condition, but as well consult with your physician, because it is so powerful, and the effects and benefits happen so quickly that you're going to have your physician monitor your medications, where probably most of the people are told that you're on these meds for life.
Right.
Yes.
So
that they'll increase instead of decrease. Yeah. So
one of my clients reversed his type 2 diabetes, but he's a taxi driver, and he says he still has to get his insulin. Like, according to the National Health Service in the UK, it's irreversible. He has to get it, or he'd lose his license.
Right.
He just sit in the bin. He don't need it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
You can't tell him.
It's so sad to think that people are suffering unnecessarily with all of these horrible chronic conditions.
It's sad, isn't it?
You throw COVID on there, and we know that, statistically, they're saying that most people that are dying of COVID have a pre-existing condition, obesity being one of them, and all of that kind of thing. So it's like, there again, you
could be helping yourself.
You could be helping yourself, and really quickly.
Yeah.
So that if you do get COVID, your chances are much better of surviving it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, your wonderful stories were featured in the movie Eating You Alive.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and how did you enjoy that experience?
That is just another. It puts a smile on my face, and again, because we had never been that much on social media while I was recuperating, Sean. We bought me an iPad, a tablet, which I'd never owned in my life. And so, that again, the rabbit hole of animal rights comes into play, and was learning about all those things. And then on some of the sponsored ads, of course, there was this trailer for this fabulous looking film starring Samuel Jackson, James Cameron, Penn Jillette, and all the rock star physicians that we know of in the movement. And so I thought, for the heck of it, this was a Sunday morning, for the heck of it, I'm going to call, I'm going to direct message them. And so I DM'd Eating You Alive and simply stated, this is what we've been through. We're seeing the trailers for your film. I keep seeing coming soon, coming soon. When is your movie coming out? We can't wait to see it. And so you hit send and you expect, okay, you're going to scroll on, and then bing, the notifier comes up within seconds. And it's, hi, my name is Marilee Jacobs. I'm one of the producers of Eating You Alive. Your story is quite incredible. Can I call you right now? And I thought, sure. So she's out, she's busy in the house, about to leave to go help a friend convalesce in another community. And she's quite angry, of course. What are you doing? Why are you on this? I'm trying to get ready to leave. Please put that thing down. And then she came back, and I was on the phone. She said, who are you on the phone with now? And I yelled out in front of the other room, I'm on the phone with the producer of Eating You Alive. And then there was silence. So we talked about it for about an hour and a half, and, relayed more info. And she said, gosh, we finished production of the film. It's finished. But your story for yourself and Sean is so incredible. We're thinking of reopening production and including you guys. So she said, send us a clip and fire those clips off today for us so we can make a determination. So I grabbed her, I said, get something nice on, sit down in the chair. I got to clip you. And then again, I've been with media relations and communications as a police spokesperson for the past, at the time, 10 years. So very, experienced with capturing video and whatnot. And she, no, not at all.
Not at all.
So we clipped her. That clip is on our YouTube channel as well, as to how we got in the film. And we sent them off. And she called back on the Wednesday, and she said, Dan, we want to get you down here as soon as possible. When can you get here? The first question was, where is here? She said, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia. So that Thursday, we were on a plane, and we flew down to Chattanooga and to Atlanta. We spent the weekend with Marilee Jacobs and Paul Kerton Jr. and the whole crew from the production company. Wonderful people. And that cast now, has become part of our family.
Nice.
And it was
That's
the
beautiful.
first time that we had actually spoken to anybody who wasn't close friends and family. So it was so emotional.
If you see
and so draining.
If you have that interview, I'm quite stoic.
We were raw.
Yeah, we were pretty raw in that. And so Eating You Alive has given us this unbelievable platform to share the story through the film and promote and advocate for the health benefits of whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And it's for the past 7 years, and it's going to mark.
We're emotional creatures. Sorry.
That's beautiful. I'm the same way. I swear I didn't have emotions until I went vegan. I was a bouncer. I was a horrible, horrible person. And then I just figured, if I don't want to hurt a chicken I've never met, why am I happy to punch my fellow man in the face if he's a bit rude to me? And I'll just cry at the drop of a hat now. But I really appreciate you guys being so open and authentic and honest. It's beautiful. And this kind of thing will heal the world. So good on you. Good on you.
Yeah, we're a small fraction of the world too. So, if we can look at what it does for us, but for the bigger picture, what it can do for the planet, and it's just incredible. And it's as easy as what's on the tip of your fork. And as Samuel Jackson says in the film, what's on your plate,
Right.
7 years, this November 9th is my 7-year anniversary of being cancer-free.
Well,
Diagnosed, of being diagnosed. And, I've surpassed that 5-year mark.
Yes.
And I thrived and I've gotten healthier. Our fitness level and participation has increased dramatically. And it's interesting because my birthday is November 16th. So I was diagnosed with cancer a week before my birthday. So, it's November now, is really a tremendous month of introspect, but as well of celebration.
Yeah, that's lovely. Just very quickly, where can people see the film if they want to watch that?
So the film is available if you go onto the website Eating You Live. It's downloadable, rentable there. It's on Amazon. It's also on Tubi, and I believe it's on YouTube for rental purchase as well. It's very much akin to Forks Over Knives, but I kind of term it as a Forks Over Knives 2.0. There's far more of the rock star physicians and people are in the field. Then there's a layer of regular physicians that have changed their way of
recovered their own health and have learned to recover the health of their patients.
They change the way they practice their medicine.
Right.
And then there's these unbelievable recovery stories. And all these individuals from heart disease, obesity, cancer cases, lupus, some of them physicians themselves. It's a very, very powerful film. We teed up with all sorts of organizations for screening the film. We still participate in community screenings and Q&As, and we went fortunate enough to go down to Los Angeles for the premiere in 2017.
It was so much fun. It was just crazy.
This little couple from Naramata, we are now so connected with this community on all the facets, be it the environmental, the animal rights activism, because we are staunch and very, very big advocates for animal rights now, and activists and advocates for animal activists, that it's probably, the biggest change in our lives that we never thought would
never. In our mid-50s, we never thought we'd be going, dance to police officer. He's on the other side of the protest lines, so it's...
That's a whole other story in itself.
I might get to that in a bit, if that's okay, just to touch on it. So off the back of the movie, you've been doing lots of health advocacy through public speaking, podcasts, and your social media channels. It seems to me that, like me, it's bringing you like a sense of purpose and fire, so that's a really good thing, isn't it? It's a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Oh,
definitely. Huge. It's a heavy load, but it's nothing in comparison to what we're doing to the planet and the animals, all for the sake of a commodity and a false. A false storyline. We don't need to eat this way. We shouldn't be eating this way.
Yeah, we're causing the suffering of animals and the planet to consume something that causes us to suffer. It's ludicrous.
Yeah. It's the definition of madness. Where can people find you online if they wish to connect with you or learn from you?
Yeah, and then so our social media platforms are on the main platforms on Facebook under Indian Rock Vegans is our group page. That group page is solely the health component of the whole food plant-based vegan lifestyle, as well as our Instagram account, Indian Rock Vegans. That a lot of the eye candy of the foods that Sheanne is a fabulous cook. That was the other benefit as well too, that I got back into the kitchen and really we've enjoyed it as a couple. As well we're trying to and making efforts to load more up onto YouTube, again onto Indian Rock Vegans and Twitter. Our open Facebook page, Dan and Sheanne Muscaluk, is a combination for the two of us. That's an open page and that encompasses everything. That's our animal rights efforts, our health aspect, information and resource hubbing, as well as our lifestyle and we showcase a lot of our beautiful community here at Indian Rock, which is the name of our accounts.
A lot of people wonder why we named it that. It's just the little hamlet where we live.
Right, the beautiful Okanagan Valley here. So I think of the combination of everything that we hope to offer something worthwhile for people to listen in here.
And I think I like to think, at least, we are so super middle class, white bread people, federal government job. I mean, we're nobody special at all. We're just average Joes, and we made this unbelievable change in our lives by switching what we eat and by educating ourselves. And I think if we can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And
it's not about classes either, because we know eating really a whole food plant-based diet, a sack of rice and beans and lentils is not costly.
Right.
It's the cheapest food in the world, isn't it?
It is. And, by default, many third world countries are whole food plant-based or were. Sadly, the standard American diet is creeping into so many countries around the world, which is really sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we changed. Fortunately, our kids were in their mid to late teens, but we got them. It was hard, but we got them. And now they're 24 and 27, and they are eating this way as well. And I think it's pretty non-negotiable for them. And so I think that too is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your children, is that aspect of health that I hope that they will go forward, and that, it was their mid-teens. But I'm hoping that they will avoid all of those pitfalls of breast cancer, prostate cancer, all of those kind of things, heart disease, diabetes. And what better thing to launch your kids off with?
What better lifestyle change to make as a family unit, and to impart the greatest gift that you can give to your kids is health and the knowledge as to how to nurture yourself, the proper food to eat, how to prepare it, all those things, to just pass it on and on.
And to heal the planet, since they're going to be the ones that inherit it. So
exactly. Yeah, I love that. Now, you said about the animal rights advocacy. I can see you got a save top there on there. Have you done? Yeah,
this is from our good friends at LA Animal Save, Amy Jean Davis and all the crew down there, and Robert Sudd. We've been fortunate enough to meet up with them several times and participate. And we got into the animal rights aspect and the animal ethical side of things when we start to educate ourselves as to what animal agriculture is really all about. And then again, you talk about the anger that this caused and the dumbfounded. We kind of grew up thinking cows eat grass and make milk and produce milk because they eat grass, not because they're a pregnant mammal. So we certainly, when you talk about going down the rabbit hole of educating yourselves about the health aspect of this and nutrition,
how animals actually arrive on your plate is shocking, absolutely shocking.
And so shocking that people want to avoid the topic and really not address it. But I think more and more people are. And with the democratization of information, as we have this platform with you again today here as an example, as to how much we can share now and how much we can educate one another without the industry trying to stop us from doing that. And they are. We, even in Canada here now, we've got ag-gag laws that essentially are just trying to make it more difficult for animal advocates to show the truth. And so it's interesting. So as a veteran police officer of 33 years, I'm referred to as the Queen's Cowboys here in Canada, the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So I'm a Mountie.
Yes.
And registered and all.
Mountie. I knew that phrase. Yeah.
Yes. And I became an activist even when I was still a serving police officer. And certainly it was starting to raise some eyebrows within, my organization, my employers. I was participating in, lawful assembly and legal forms of protest, but to be there protesting and for gosh sakes, for animal rights, people, well, this guy's gone bonkers. But I think the true thing that, as a police officer, you investigate victimization, you investigate violence, you find the facts and the evidence and the information, you put things together. And so it becomes galvanized in your person as to what you try and do. You try and prevent violence, you try and prevent victimization, you try and help victims of violence, and you advocate for the prevention of it. So as a police officer, then becoming vegan and looking at what we're doing to animals, simply just another species, but to the levels and degrees of the violence and brutality that we inflict on animals, we're pretty brutal to ourselves as human to human. But what we have been doing to billions of innocent creatures and vulnerable, and that's the other thing too, is the vulnerability of victims is always part of what you're trying to do. So as a police officer, I just shifted my understanding and my beliefs and core values towards these other species and have become an advocate for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Now, obviously, protests can be potentially, quite volatile with, feelings running high on both sides. Has your time in the police force helped you to sort of navigate that and to keep things under control?
Yeah, and it's interesting because even prior to my retirement, one of our corporate lawyers, a good friend of mine within the force, and as a media spokesperson, communications person, of course, one of the first phone calls I've always made was to the lawyer to find out, okay, our messaging, what can we, shouldn't we, and what are some of the outcomes of what we say and how we react and so on and behave. And, Kyle Friesen is his name. And one of the conversations when we started talking about my activism as a current officer, he said, Dan, you're really in an interesting position because you can be a benefit to both sides here. You can educate our law enforcement agencies as to what this big thing is, the animal rights movement, and as well as you can help, activists as well. Yeah. And that's why I kind of explained it. I'm an animal rights activist, but I'm also an advocate for activists, because where we find the animal rights movement right now compared to other social justice movements, we are where they were several decades ago as to how they were being treated by our government agencies and by our police, police of jurisdiction, where we're not being treated very well at times. There's very good behavior and appropriate professional behavior on part of police officers, but as a police officer at a protest on the other side of the protest line now, and at these events and these actions, even if they're unlawful or they are, for example, with Meet the Victims or other ones where there are civil disobedience happening, the police are still just there to do their job in a unbiased way and an appropriate way, and not let their personal biases and implicit bias take over their objectivity. And I see good behavior, but also I've seen a lot of bad behavior, and I've seen some of the horrible things happen to activists. And I've that's been part of my role in my job now across Canada, especially because of our, that's my police jurisdiction, to assist activists when they have encounters with police. Also to explain to them what to expect of police, what they should expect of them and what they can expect and what police can expect of what this movement is. So it's a very unique situation that I find myself in. And I've extended, my assistance to police forces across Canada. And it's been a rough go as to, they know of me and I know that they monitor my social media platforms and so on, and I'm proud of what I'm doing, and we're just telling the truth. And that, again, as a police officer, is the core value that is ingrained into us, is just seeking truth.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. What would be your top tips for effective communication during advocacy? So when you're trying to advocate to someone, what would be your top tips for that to go well?
Yeah, I think, again, too, is that, first of all, is, as we lead by example, just as being who we are, knowing, again, always remembering where we all came from.
Right. Never be pious, because we all were eating animal products.
Most of us are not born vegan or plant-based eaters. And I think that, there's always something that is going to capture somebody's thoughts. But I think, again, too, is that, offering these individuals as to just look into this, and I think kindness, extending kindness and compassion to those that still haven't fully made themselves aware what this is the biggest thing.
And to really know your audience, because of our age, we're in our mid-50s now. Many of the people who come out to see us speak are our peer group, who are facing chronic disease and bad diagnosis and all of those kind of things. So, it really, there's three ways to get people. It's health, environment, or animals. And it's like, you just need to talk to somebody long enough to know where to actually
they click with.
To click. And then you go with that platform, because ultimately, obviously we want people to not suffer like we have, and we want people to be healthy. But ultimately, if we're looking to spare the lives of animals, it really doesn't matter which platform you go in on, whether it's health, animals are being saved, whether it's ethics, being saved, environment, being saved. Yeah. So I always say, if you dance long enough with somebody, you can figure it out. So, and you just have to.
You have to, again, like we said, it's a big load to carry, but we have to, and you cannot not.
Yeah.
We have to do what we can in any way it is, and that being from people who cook, people who social media platforms and education. The street outreach is very, very powerful, whichever organization you're with, even if you're just alone, and never feel compelled that you have to attach yourself to a specific group, because you are the movement in your as yourself too. So there's so many things people can do.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else you'd like to chat about that we've not touched on yet, just before we wrap up?
Gosh, I think we've covered so much. We just we're eternally hopeful. We have to be hopeful. Without hope, there's nothing. We see a lot of great work being done. I got to say that one individuals that has really been a great influence on us and inspiration is Dr. Sailesh Rao of his organization Climate Healers. He's the producer behind Cowspiracy, What the Health, and Compassion for Prayer. Prayer for Compassion, I should say. Just the work that one individual, he as an individual, has done over the decades as to what he's hopeful to see happen, that he offers us a lot of hope.
I think that the more you educate yourself, just read, the better you're able to communicate with people. And I think if you go into this just angry because your animals are being killed, it's not going to come out well. You really need to have the kind of the science behind what you're saying, and try and appeal to people on an intellectual level, if that's possible. And I think too, sometimes, you have to cut bait at a certain point, because some people are just not ready for the message. I've always considered myself an animal lover. And what I realize now is I was a pet lover until, until we made this transition. And now every bug in my house gets gently couriered outside. It just changes the way you see everything. And it changes how you look at everything. It's the biggest change we've ever had in our lives, more than getting married and having babies or anything. Those are all big, but this is massive, and it affects we've changed our cleaning products, our, my makeup, our hair, and everything has changed. and you think about every action that you take and the ramification and the ripple of that action. So, it's
now into our retirement. This is what we do.
Now your life's beginning.
Not what I thought retirement would be. I thought we'd be, sipping mint juleps and having naps, but that doesn't seem to be happening.
Too much to do. That's beautiful. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. On behalf of the people, the planet, and the animals, thank you so much for all you do.
Well, thank you so much.
I love the House Herbivore.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be speaking with the herbivore henchman.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you. Now click this.